Good morning, Southeast Asia, and we welcome you back to the Greener Premier League Spring 2018. My name is Volkan, with me is Arctic. Your shoutcasters entering Day 2.
Yeah, and pretty interesting. We just came from quite the intense Day 1, and very as far as what teams that we have towards the top side, I think, interesting enough, it's pretty much to everyone's expectation as to who will be at the top of the pack and who will be kind of dwindling as far as this group stage.
So let's head on and check out the standings to have a short recap of what happened in our Day 1. As for Ascension and Mineski, they were able to take away 2 games. So they are the ones sitting at the top 2 spot here. As you can see right now on your screen, 2 wins for both Ascension and Mineski. Whereas for Kuala Lumpur Hunters, 1-1. Whereas Sovereign and Bigetron Esports, I gotta say, not a good start to Day 1.
Yeah, not at all. And hopefully heading into Day 2, they have a fresh mindset going into this, looking to pull off a potential win, because for both sides here, for both Sovereign and Bigetron Esports, they haven't actually faced each other. So at the end of the day, one of them will at least have that 1 win up towards potentially making sure that they clench that 4th spot to make it into the playoffs, because with the absence of Vietnam, we're still sticking to pretty much the same format, group stage leading into playoffs. It's just that with the absence of 1 team, instead of 2 teams that will ultimately miss out on playoffs, it's just going to be 1 because of just having that 5 right there.
And also for our viewers out there, this will be the last day of the group stages. So everything counts here, Arctic, as we move on Saturday, which will be the playoffs.
So take note, guys, we won't be having a GPL broadcast for tomorrow. A little bit of a break. I mean, even the players as well, after all the pressure of these first 2 days, they kind of need a moment to relax, probably take the opportunity to maybe, who knows, if they want to practice, if they want to kind of enjoy a mini vacation in Thailand. I definitely take advantage of being abroad, especially during this particular time.
So far for Philippines, their performance out there was really, I would say, impressive, because it's a step up in their skill level, and not just them, it was also for Ascension Gaming from Thailand.
Yep.
It just goes to show, when you do well in your respective region and you completely dominate it, and when you get mixed in with other regions, you grow as a player, you grow as a team. And Ascension and Mineski, they're no strangers to that environment. As for Bigetron and Sovereign, kind of the new names entering the GPL this season.
Yep, and it's really interesting because for Bigetron and Sovereign, people were kind of thinking that, okay, maybe this will finally be the time with the little bit of a shakeup coming in from both Singapore and Indonesia as far as who they're sending in as representatives. Maybe this will be the time that they could make a change, that they could make that climb, defy the odds. But unfortunately, as of the results in Day 1, it's kind of up to expectations. So, like I mentioned, though, I'm all for the potential underdog. It's just that given the performances yesterday, it's gonna take a little bit more than that extra effort to not just make playoffs, but potentially win the GPL to get that representation for Southeast Asia heading into MSI.
Road to MSI starts here, and we will determine our representative from C region here in the GPL. So as for Mineski, Ascension, and KLH, Kuala Lumpur Hunters, entering the GPL, they're no strangers again to the environment. But as for the 2 new teams entering the GPL, I wonder how they're feeling right now in Day 2.
Well, I mean, if I were in their shoes, I'd definitely be all the more tense. Doesn't matter if you're at the top or the bottom, because if you're at the top, of course, you want to have a better placement going into the playoffs. If you're towards the bottom, a little bit more pressure because you have to make that climb at least. And this is the particular case for both Bigetron as well as Sovereign. But in the case of Mineski as well as Ascension Gaming, a little bit more breathing room. But I mean, you want to keep that momentum up. You want to end this on a high note.
Every day counts, Arctic. And when it comes to Day 1 performance, we have our 2 teams who did end it in a high note. As for KLH and the other 3 teams below the bottom 3, I wonder what they can do here in our Day 2. Because as far as performance-wise, I gotta hand to KLH. Still, the constant representative from Malaysia for a good reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because we have seen KLH, one of the more consistent teams as far as almost always qualifying for the GPL. It's just that with that qualification, one thing I'm really interested in seeing is they always kind of fly around the middle of the pack. So I'm hoping that maybe they could pull things together to make a finals appearance. It's been quite a while since we did see KLH in that spot. So, just to shake things up a bit.
And as for KLH, Caspia's performance in Day 1 was really let's say, aggressive. Very, very aggressive, because when it comes to his playstyle, he's the main shot caller. He's the one that really drives KLH to a certain goal and objective. And if he wants it, he'll do everything he can to take it away. But sometimes it could be destructive, where he sometimes overreaches his boundaries, and sometimes he does not really estimate the opponent really well. He sometimes underestimates the opponent, and in the end, they get reversed objective stolen, like the game with game 1 with Ascension. They have lost the first Infernal, and not just the Infernal, it was also the Rift Herald.
Yeah, and overall though, I would love to see, because I think KLH, without a doubt, they have amazing talent on the roster. You've highlighted Caspiel. Ozorovecki is pretty much a fan favorite in Malaysia, and even though with the absence of other players that we've come to love, which aren't on the roster this time, like Bipolar for example, we also lost on, I think there's one more member I'm missing out on, but yeah, it's a little bit of a fresh shake-up here, and that's what I was talking about during day 1, wherein this is probably one of the most competitive GPLs yet, just because every single team has something fresh to bring to the table if they have had a history of competing in the GPL. But not just that, even for the newer teams, just by being a new team in the GPL, you do have that element of surprise.
As for the element of surprise, let's see that on for Sovereign and Bigatron Esports side, because as for Sovereign, they did their best to hold their ground against Ascension, and not just Ascension, also with Mineski. It both ended in 2 losses and 1 loss each. In the end, they have what it takes to at least stall the game in their favor. So maybe we'll see adaptation in our day 2 of the GPL for, let's say, Sovereign and Bigatron can make a comeback here. But as for now, this is the last day, so anything can happen. Tiebreakers can also be in question here.
Yeah, but we talked about Sovereign, Bigatron Esports as well. One thing that I've been highlighting them during their very first game is they're kind of a breath of fresh air for the Indonesian scene for the Garuda series, because a lot of their competitors from Indonesia have been mentioning that they're one of the few teams, if not, yeah, one of the few teams. I wouldn't necessarily say the only team, but they have the proper infrastructure. They have the complete lineup of support staff ready to coach them, ready to make sure that any weaknesses are tackled on and what proactive moves they can make to correct that. So they have that going for them, but then again, there's still that question mark right there. Although day 1, I think I wouldn't want to say that it's a little bit of a negative as far as being able to translate their strength in the Garuda series to the GPL, because it's a completely different stage, of course. I mean, you could do amazing in your local league, but if you can't translate to the international, then you could only go so far in the industry.
That's what happens when you don't have enough experience outside the international scene. And as for the 3 teams entering the GPL, they have enough of that. They have a lot of experience here, especially KLH, the representative coming always from Malaysia, so it's no stranger to them. But as for Indonesia and, as I said before, Singapore, we also see new representatives. This will be a step forward, but let's see what they can do to make an impact entering their first GPL run.
Yeah, but we've talked about the bottom teams. Let's go ahead and look up what's happening towards the top side. So with regards to Thailand, Ascension Gaming, so that's another one of the teams that has been a little bit of a consistent contender as far as representing Thailand, and with very good reason. I mean, we've seen them time and time again, although unfortunately always kind of in the shadow of the Vietnamese squad that represented in GPL in the past
Wasn't
seasons.
everyone in a way under the shadow of Vietnam?
Yeah,
Let's just
pretty
face
much.
it. In a way, we have to face it, because they have an astounding performance throughout the GPL, and without any question, they were rewarded with their own region.
Yeah.
Sometimes this takes me way back to Taiwan, which was really way back before. Let's say season 2. Season 2 in a way.
Yeah. But, I mean, then again, this is their time to shine. And what I like about the Thai squad this time around is, if you notice their main roster, there's no imports from what we've seen. I mean, in the past, we've seen No Way from Vietnam. We've seen Jisoo. I believe Jisoo's from Korea, if I'm not mistaken. So, if you notice, all 5 members are of Thai descent. So, you know, it's nice to see that even with that, they could pretty much prove that they don't really need the imports to still shine in the GPL. Although there's still questions on whether or not Ascension Gaming still has that same flavor from the previous seasons, because from what I hear, it's been pretty tight in the Thai scene as of recent. But same goes for the Philippines. I mean, Mineski suddenly stepping up their game. Unfortunately, they did miss out on the previous GPL, ultimately falling to Team Manila Eagles back then. But they come back with a vengeance with a revamped roster. They used to have Celestial. That was just one Korean import on their roster during the 2017 summer season. Transitioning into the 2018 spring season, they have both June as well as Gary, which has worked wonders for them. But you can't give just credit to those two alone. I mean, everybody from Exocen to James to TG to Kaigu, they've stepped up, and it's not necessarily a factor wherein it was just the Koreans alone that were carrying their weight. All those 4 players from the Philippines as well prove that they could be definitive to Mineski's victories during their PGS run heading into the GPL.
Well, when it comes to integrating imports to a team, it's a challenge for both sides. I mean, as for the Korean imports for Mineski, they had their fair share of challenges when it comes to the language barriers they had with Mineski from the interviews we had. And not just that, it's the fact that the players are quick to adapt and welcome change to help them improve. That attitude towards the imports, that's what showed Mineski, and that is why they're entering this GPL stronger than ever. Not just them, also for Ascension Gaming. They had their fair share of struggles with imports, let's say challenges too, but in the end, I think for Ascension Gaming, they've learned something very valuable from that experiences, and now they feel like we can now let's try integrating a full Thai squad, and let's not have the problem with language barrier anymore. So I think from Thailand, they had their experiences, they learned from it, and now they want to show it here in the GPL where they will not have any imports, perhaps?
I'd have to agree with you there, Vulcan. I mean, by having that full Thai squad, as you mentioned, it's a positive in the form of having fluid communication, because I think at the end of the day, a lot of our summers probably already know this, but you can't just rely on the raw talent alone. If you can't get your communication in check, then you wouldn't be able to function or even be as speedy with your responses with what plays you want to make on the riff. So I think this time around, that should be something that works for Ascension this time around with this full Thai roster. But man, they're really raring to get into these games. I'm really wondering who is, because the bigger question for me is not necessarily who's gonna come up on top, because I think it's pretty much gonna be a coin toss between Mineski and Ascension Gaming. But what I'm really looking forward to is who's gonna manage to climb their way out of that 5th spot to at least make sure that they qualify for the playoffs.
Top 4 teams will move on to the playoffs. So as for Sovereign sitting at the bottom, the red zone, they want to get out of there. Not just for Sovereign, all teams. In a way, they don't want to be at that 4th slot, especially the 3rd spot, which is being taken over by KLH. Yes, KLH is 1-1. And as for Sovereign and Bigatron Esports,
0-2.
They are at the bottom too.
Yeah. Man, it's a bit of a tricky situation, but hopefully they use exactly that as motivation. But of course, reviewing these standings once again. So as you can see, it's interesting because like for those that are in 1st and 2nd, everyone's pretty much towards the top side. It's very much flat 2 zeros. Sovereign and Bigatron, they're the opposites in 0-2s. And then you have Kuala Lumpur's sitting in the middle, just kind of in the middle of the pack, flat out, 1-1 equal. So I'm wondering how this will pan out though, because as far as what matches I'm seeing here, for Bigatron Esports, I mean, who they've managed to face so far. So they've faced it out, they've juked it out with KLH, they've juked it out with Mineski. So I think as far as going up against Ascension Gaming, which is actually our first game, that's the tricky part right there. It's not really much of a scenario wherein they can, it's the odds aren't quite in their favor, but talking about Sovereign versus Bigatron, then that could be their chance right there.
And as for Sovereign and Bigatron, I gotta say, entering the day 1 of the GPL with that kind of performance is something that you would expect from a team that is very new to the scene, where we see 3 big titans going after blood. So as for day 2, I have high expectations from Sovereign and Bigatron Esports, the pride of their respective region, representing their country in the Garena Premier League 2018 spring season. And now we'll be moving on to our day 2 in the group stages. So once again, my name is Vulcan, with me is Arctic, your shoutcasters entering for the opening match.
Take note, of course, all the action is brought to you live coming in from Thailand, where all the teams are competing right now in what is going to be the very last Arena Premier League before we transition to the all-new format that we have, which will change the face of esports for Southeast Asia forever.
A huge revamp, a big change will come our way, but let's see how the teams will go out with a bang here before that huge change.
Yes, and of course, quick recap, like I mentioned earlier, as I was discussing, this is going to be Game 1 between Ascension Gaming versus Bigatron Esports. So we're looking at a team that was always flying at the top versus a team that's kind of been under the radar for most of the GPL seasons past. But like I mentioned, I would love to see Bigatron Esports make a little bit of that shake-up, make a little bit of a change, but the odds are kind of against him here. Ascension Gaming, they're a pretty strong team. It's very David and Goliath in a way.
Well, it's a very challenging spot to be at for Bigatron Esports because as far as Ascension Gaming, they haven't shown any signs of weaknesses just yet, only to a point where they did play against Sovereign, where they were at a risk because the Sovereign squad had 4 Drakes, and not just that, they were extending it towards the late game. Maybe that small window that we saw on day 1, maybe the teams can pick it up here in our day 2.
Maybe, fingers crossed, of course. But I don't know, man. With this, though, because looking at what remaining matches that we... Okay, so probably some of the highlight matches that we're looking at here is... First, Game 1. Oh, wait, no, not Game 1, but particularly later on during the day once we have Bigatron Esports versus Sovereign, because that will be a good indication as to who will potentially make it out of the group stage. Of course, another game to look forward to is Meneski versus Ascension Gaming, just because, you know, that will kind of help us figure out who will be at the top of the pack towards the end of this group stage as well. So it's kind of the polar opposites here. One match that will determine who will get cut from the running in the GPL, and that other one is who's going to store above and beyond and have a better placement, better momentum getting into the playoffs.
That's very true. As for Meneski, they'll also have the match against KLH, Kuala Lumpur Hunters from Malaysia. So when it comes to day 2, a lot of things can happen. And in a way, let's get to know our teams, because when we're talking about, let's say, Ascension Gaming, again, we did mention before, an all-Thai squad, maybe no challenges will happen when it comes to language barriers. But as for Bigatron Esports, entering our Game 1, correct?
Yeah.
I wonder what they can do here.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, with this revamped roster for Bigatron, not to mention they do have 2 Vietnamese players in the form of Minky as well as Min Tri. So tricky. They also have that language barrier-ish working against them. And you also have to take into account that, okay, let's go ahead and check out these rosters first. So of course, for Ascension Gaming, we have Rocky and Treso, G4, Lloyd and Rich on top, jungle mid, AD carry, and support respectively. Our Thailand squad right here looks like they are raring to go, currently at the top of the ladder. So definitely positive energy coming in from these guys heading into day 2 of the group stage of the GPL.
Itching to secure their first spot. Ascension Gaming's roster will remain as it is, and as for the next team, it will be Bigatron Esports with Minky, Mintry, Radiance, Zico, and Spade. Quite a performance they had here on day 1, but as for their transition to day 2, I hope that they know what they should do against Ascension.
Yes, and of course, what I've been highlighting here is that for Bigatron Esports, they pretty much have a solid support staff here. As you can see, they have their coach Thibaut, who was a former LGS player himself in Indonesia. Not to mention, he represented Indonesia during the LoL International Collegiate Championship in 2016. So he has all that experience working for him. But again, at the end of the day, they still have to try to at least prove that they could translate that advantage that they had in Indonesia heading into the GPL, because that's something that we've yet to see from day 1 as of the results. Hopefully day 2 we see that correction as we head into the pick and ban phase.
This will be our first game. Ascension on the blue side versus BTR on the red side. As for opening bans, we're seeing a Fiora targeted to Minky, and as for Ascension, one of the picks that really you need to look out for is the Skarner, the Rise, and not to mention the fact that he also has the Sneaky Camille pick, which is a powerful flex pick. You need to watch out for that.
But I mean, from what bans that we did see so far, I mean, just that first ban right off the bat coming in from Bigatron Esports, they clearly do not want to give any opportunity for Intresso to go above and beyond, because we've been talking about how with Vietnam out of the picture, Levi, he's probably one of the best players that we had in the GPL, but now that's kind of gone out for Vietnam, since they do have their own slot, their own ticket into MSI, into Worlds. There's been quite a bit of contention here because we have a lot of talented junglers. You've highlighted Caspiel earlier. Intresso, of course, another one of those people from Ascension Gaming, having just recently gone back to his roots-ish in a way. So we'll just have to see how that translates.
Caspiel was also not one of the junglers that really stood out in day one, but also one of the shot callers that I saw how KLH behaves, because when Caspiel is going in, almost a guarantee that his teammates will fall.
Oh, yeah. But then again, with this game right here for Ascension, I mean, it's not just really Intresso you need to stop off here. I think that's the tricky part right here. There's a lot of players here on the Thai squad that could pretty much carry the weight. I mean, you have G4, who's been a pretty excellent mid laner. Sure, he's had a few bumps and U-turns as of the previous GPLs, very crucial games, but nonetheless, I mean, that's just all the more motivation for you to make that solid comeback going into this. But interesting, though, from what we are seeing here so far from Bigatron Esports, so we do see the Jax as well as the Shen, a little bit of a flexeroo happening for the Indonesian squad. We have seen Shen played in the support role during day one, so there's no real sign yet as to how this is going to be going out as far as these flex picks for Bigatron. But I do kind of estimate that this Jax could be going to Minky, because from what I've gathered during the Garuda series, Minky is one of the highlighted players and one of the players that a lot of Indonesians respect as far as the competition that Bigatron Esports went through during that time. So I wouldn't be surprised, because Minky's very talented when it comes to these particular champions. If I'm not mistaken, Jax was actually one of the champions that he also used during the finals of the Garuda series this 2018 spring season.
And not just that, for Ascension side, they really love to pick this Braum as their support. One of the most picked champions in their respective region has been, in a way, banned out during their finals in the TPL 2018 against Mega with a score of 3-0. Ascension came out on top of it with the constant picks of the Braum, and not just that, paired up with Tristana. But we will be seeing the Caitlyn paired up with the Braum, which in a way works the same way because it offers such a powerful siege. And note that we are playing on our patch 8.5, not on the live servers, which is 8.6.
Yeah, kind of bit of a classic bot lane here in the form of this Caitlyn and Braum. But let's go ahead and check out the second rotation of bans here. So Dinar instantly taken off the board here for Rocky. In response, of course, they're going to be taking away the Galio. So probably estimating Bigatron Esports not wanting to allow them champions that could have a bigger impact once we do head into the bigger fights in the mid and late game. So
let's see though, because Ascension has just to pick their mid laner. Oh, Arise being banned out by G4, one of the champions again that we did see banned out constantly in our day one. Let's see. This will end our phase 2. Ascension with the last ban.
I kind of like the thought process behind these bans so far, coming in from both Ascension and Bigatron. It's kind of less, it's not just as far as what we see in the meta, but also just by history. You could clearly see that both Ascension and Bigatron have done their homework as far as knowing what champions have propelled these teams to not only see a little bit of success in the GPL, but more so what success that led them to being champions in their respective regions.
Ooh, one of the champions that left open was the Azir. Know that for Ascension side, they love playing the Azir, the Rise, and not to mention sometimes the Jace onto G4 side. But as for this time, BTR will be taken away. As for Ascension, a ban on this Camille because they're still fearful that the Jax and the Shen can be a flex. And for Ascension, they have yet to secure their top laner. They did not want to give the Camille, even though Ascension wants that Camille. They banned it out in the last pick. Looks like this will be a Karma.
Very nice pick here. I like this Karma. Not only do you have that utility, but you also grant that Olaf that extra boost to just kind of...
Can we see a Kled maybe? I'm not pretty sure.
Run straight in. I'm not really sure if we're going to be seeing a Kled for Ascension. Cho'Gath, yeah, I kind of like this Cho'Gath here a little bit more. I mean, okay, so switcheroo right for the Orn. So nonetheless, still, Orn a pretty good pick here. I think it rounds up the composition quite well in the sense that you do have that set potential. You also have an additional tanky element to the composition aside from the Braum, and there's a lot of set potential just so that this Olaf and Caitlyn can wreak havoc on Summoner's Rift. But seems that Bigatron Esports have different plans right here. So it is going to be the Sejuani. So as we estimated, Vulcan, it is going to be the Shen in support, and this Jax will be going to Minky as anticipated.
This is quite difficult against an Ornn matchup. One of the counters that can really hinder the brittles of Ornn because he needs that basic attack. And as for Jax, if you don't control this Jax, you are going to lose the top lane really quickly because of the fact that when he reaches level 6, it's quite difficult to itemize against the Jax, and not to mention Ornn has been nerfed a lot. I mean,
Quite
a lot throughout the patches. So I guess this will lock in all of their picks. Yes, correct. So this is the final switch being done. And as for Ascension, I like what you're working for here.
Oh yeah.
Call it the Forge God, and then go in with the Ragnar with the Cardinal Shield, and let the Braum and the Caitlyn peel for the backline.
Yeah, meanwhile for Bigatron Esports, I mean, there's quite a bit they can do with the Sejuani, as well as the Azir in the later parts once ultimates are up, once we hit team fights. But not just that, of course, you also have to take into account Mintry can have quite the influence earlier on in the laning phase if he could get things going with the Sejuani. And just overall, looking at the bigger picture with the composition, I mean, Bigatron Esports, without a doubt, they're kind of in a position wherein they're not going to be as experimental. They're just going to stick to what they're much more comfortable with at this point. And I think that's a pretty good call here. A lot of these champions have seen the light of day during their run in the Garuda series, so it looks like they will be seeing the light of day as well here in the GPL. So it's a good call, I'd say, because especially with them being in such a tight spot and at least trying to want to clench that spot for 4th, they kind of want to push into something that will probably grant them a better chance at victory now that they need to rake up every single win that they can to keep the dream alive here in the GPL.
And as for the pick for Ascension, quite interesting to see the Olaf and the Karma pick, but as for Bigatron, a Shen support kind of works well against the Caitlyn because of the Spirit's Refuge, but it's going to be difficult because there is the Unbreakable from the Braum, can deny so much damage. And as we all say, Arctic, it's better to see everything unfold once we are on the Rift.
Yes, and it looks like we are going to be witnessing just that, Vulcan. As ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you all once again to the 2018 Garena Premier League Spring Season Group Stage. We're currently on day 2, hitting it off with Game 1 against Ascension Gaming of Thailand versus Bigatron Esports of Indonesia.
And as for the play out for BTR, day 1 was not a great performance and not a good day to end it. So they'll try to do something here in day 2. Let's see what can BTR show us and show Ascension that they do want to take away 1 point and at least scale up the rankings in the GPL.
Man, this is pretty calculated by Ascension Gaming, though, right off the bat, establishing vision, being able to spot out Tulsa. So okay, so it's actually Tulsa that's going to be playing for Bigatron Esports. Looks like there has been a sub out. Mintry would not be playing this game. They will be utilizing Tulsa for this. So interesting. I actually haven't gotten the opportunity to check out much with Tulsa. So it is interesting to take note of, though. One of the reasons why the jungler has been a bit of a question mark for Bigatron Esports entering the GPL is because they're actually not even playing with their jungler from the Garuda series, but looks like Intereso and Tulsa, they might be meeting things early on.
Oh dear. He does not know that his blue buff is being taken away. This is sneaky. Oh my god. Intereso from day 1 to day 2, still the same strategy he's going for. Invade as much as he can, read the opponent. He knew that the Sejuani was starting red and now immediately went for the blue buff. This will hinder again the Sejuani a lot. We saw this before in day 1, where from the beginning of the game, you take away the crucial buffs. 1 cap, that alone is enough for the Sejuani to slow down.
I'm somewhat surprised that Bigatron Esports didn't anticipate that exact potential play from Intereso, because if anything, that was something that was pretty prevalent during day 1 of the Ascension Gaming's performance thus far in the GPL. So kind of tricky there, and Tulsa just gonna have a little bit of a slower time, missing out on that lead bump.
Now you can see in the map here, he's now going for the Raptors. See, he's not stopping. He's going for every camp he can. He knows that he's early. Advantage is more than enough. He did flash in, did not burn the flash of the Sejuani.
Yep, unfortunately for Intresso was not able to force that summoner spell out from Tulsa. But still, that's a positive for Tulsa because even though he is falling behind in terms of camp, could potentially make up Yautza.
Great trap placement there from the Caitlyn. Close call. One more hit there, and the Ezreal would have been taken down.
Man, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle here for Zico from here on out. Missing out on that heal, not to mention Exhaust is down as well from Spade. All summoners are still up for Lloyd and Rich in exchange. So, going to be a tricky time for Bigatron's bot lane within the next few minutes. And yeah, like I've been touching on right here, at least for Tulsa, the salvation here is, even though he's missing out on these camps, by still having that flash up, could make up for it by potentially making plays across lanes. But of course, in order for him to make that comeback, he has to get some sort of value out of these camps, whether it be even a summoner spell expended. That would be a factor to help Bigatron here.
As for Intresso, he's pretty happy with the results he had in the invasion of the blue and the red side. As for BTR, I wonder what they can do here, because we're seeing what the Sejuani is doing is trying to counter, but he did not know that there was a war being placed in. Teleport coming in here, forces the flash out from the Sejuani. Goes for the Arctic out, there's the Frostbite, and the Concussive blows, and the first blood immediately goes onto the Karma. One more hit there, and Lloyd picks it up.
Yeah, it's a Bigatron Esports' Tulsa was kind of trying to mirror what Intresso was doing by trying to take some of his own camps, at least try to make up for lost ground for what camps that he did lose out on. But unfortunately, that's the thing though, if you're going to mirror that exact same move, you have to make the preemptive moves to make sure that at least you wouldn't find yourself in a deficient position. And in that case, Tulsa just kind of passed by a ward before heading to that camp.
Actually.
So that was a bit unfortunate for him. I mean,
I guess the pressure is going to him because we're seeing again. This is at a point I can see all about the junglers really pressuring each other. Three members colliding into the blue side and gets the taunt connected in. Refuge is there. Spade gets an easy kill.
Great collapse coming in from Bigatron Esports to relieve what Intresso has been doing within these past few minutes. But then again, we're seeing the cause and effect here, Vulcan. Let's go check out the replay from earlier, though. So, as you can see, Tulsa was already on the run for his life at this point. And it's interesting because there was a teleport response coming in from G4. So, overall, it was quite a preemptive move. Not to mention that, unfortunately, Spade as well was just kind of got caught out there. So, I think that they should have just left Tulsa to be, just so that they would have at most gone 1 for nothing instead of that 2 for nothing, which was a tad bit unnecessary at that point.
And as for the results here, kill score is 2-1. We're seeing Ascension with a lot of aggression coming from Intresso is working towards their favor, but now looks like top lane. There's a question here. He did hop onto a ward, but in the end, no follow-up coming from the Orc. And note that this Jax is running the Kleptomancy.
So looks like
it's actually one of the strats you would see in the Korean servers where he would go for the Klepto. Immediately he wants to scale up. The W to proc the Klepto is really easy, especially a free lane such as an Orc.
That actually does make sense now that you think about it, because at least it will grant Minky the opportunity here to kind of build up, because as I've been saying earlier, while Bigatron Esports, upon interviewing them, they mentioned that almost everybody is an asset on the team, but of course, when you talk to their direct competition in the Garuda series, they have been highlighting Minky. So I guess this would be good for Minky in the sense that if he could transition well enough into the later parts, getting that extra boost with the Kleptomancy, then maybe, just maybe, Bigatron Esports has a lot of room to make up for a bit of the ground that they've lost within these first few minutes, because we are slowly seeing
Predator on to the Ezreal. No more escape, no more turrets to protect the Ezreal. That'll be Intresso picking up an easy kill with a Ragnarok, and as for the second kill, that is the double.
Man, Ascension Gaming, they are playing Bigatron Esports like an open book right now. And it's unfortunate, Vulcan, because we're only that tower pretty much went on what? That was like 7 minutes, 30 seconds into this game. So that's a massive early loss here for Bigatron Esports. And like I've been saying, if they want to try to contend with Ascension Gaming, they at least want to give the chance for Minky, for Radiance, to kind of scale up just so that they could reach those optimal scales. But the way Ascension has been playing this so far, I don't think they're going to reach that opportunity unless they could kind of recuperate from this.
And as for the timer, it's 8 minutes into the game. And see how the CS deficit of Telsa is. That's a lot. Not just the CS, we're also seeing it in the experience. Level gap too. And as for the bot lane, yes, first turret has been destroyed, so they will go for a swap to the top lane.
Yeah, and the tricky part here is by forcing the swap out here, it puts Minky in a tad bit of an awkward situation wherein
he won't be able to proc his grab though. A bit too early, I would say.
And that's a major loss for Bigatron, because like I've been saying, Minky could kind of be the salvation here if this Jax has a decent time in the early phase, but okay, that's
from the brush, there's the Forge God. He did try to shadow dash away, lands on a trap, he gets taken out by Lori. Another pickup from Ascension.
Whew. Man, oh man, Ascension, there's just no chill in this game. They go for every single opportunity that they can. Great set coming in from Rocky in order to enable them to get that kill onto Spade. So overall, this is going to be unfortunate. Looks like Radiance is making its way towards this top side to help remedy this, because Bigatron Esports, they don't want to lose out on too many objectives this too early on.
As for losing too much objectives, they lost the first turret and the first blood, so at this point, what can BTR do? Because we're seeing already a gold lead of 3,000 this early, seeing the items, the BF sword and the pickaxe. Looks like in the red side that will be the Emperor's Defy locking down the champions of Ascension, but in the end, they have the Braum and the Karma to get things out there, but looks like the Caitlyn will join in the fight here. Ezreal trying to go in for the snipe onto the Karma, misses the shot, but now the chase is onto the Braum. He uses the stand behind me to get away from, and the taunt. Really almost connected there, but looks like Ascension will now collapse onto the members. What a great knockup coming from the orb, countered out by BTR.
Man, Bigatron Esports, they were overreaching that. They had no business chasing Ascension Gaming at that point, and in effect, they lose out on Spade yet again. They were pushing the envelope there a bit too much, and as a result, not only did they lose out on yet another kill, they also lose out on a tower as well. Things are going very methodical with how Ascension Gaming has been playing this out.
Opening up the map, I wouldn't be surprised if Ascension is eyeing the Herald right now to further control the flow of the game. It wouldn't be a surprise if BTR and for Ascension, this game will not last too long, because for Ascension, they're not wasting any time here. They're going straight for the outer top lane.
Yes, and I don't know, Vulcan. We're already 10 minutes in, but Bigatron Esports, they're losing out on way too much. And like I mentioned, if Minky and Radiance couldn't reach that late game, then it's kind of sad to think of, especially with this Jax here. You at least, if you can't snowball, at least try to have that easy transition. Although, in all fairness to Minky, kind of a clean slate here for him, 0-0-0. So no he doesn't have a kill on him yet, but then again, there's not much Minky can do with the rest of Bigatron kind of falling way behind at this point, especially Spade, who's suffered way too much as a casualty, 1-4 now.
This kind of reminds me of the fact that for Ascension's side, when you check out their KD in their respective TPL 2018, almost all the members' KDA is almost 11 plus above, or 10 plus above, especially the support. Rich, looking at his KDA on 100 kill participation all throughout the game. When the fight's there, he is there. And as for Intereso, what a great job in the jungle to really disrupt the Sejuani.
Yeah, and man, I think what's unfortunate here is that it's kind of overwhelming at this point. And again, we're seeing another scenario where Intereso is just starting to spiral out of control, this time on an Olaf. And what I really like about this is that it's not just Intereso spearheading. Even with Bigatron Esports, even if they try to contend with them, Ascension Gaming, with the composition that they have all the tools to just continue to make these sets, continue to make these plays to overwhelm Bigatron Esports, from putting them in that position wherein there's almost no coming back for them. And look at this right here. They're already making a move to take down the second tier turret, and I think they're going to get that.
Looks like no members of BTR are willing to defend the inner bot lane. Forced to go down for free. This is Ascension taking away their 4th turn of the game.
And it's just so...
not just quite.
not just quite, yeah.
Living, there's a hairline of hell. Now they're targeting the Ezreal.
Yeah, and it looks like Zico is going to find himself in an unfortunate
great
situation.
block coming from the Braum, and the Stand United connects through. There's the refuge, but will it be enough? And a 2-man taunt, follow it up with an exhaust. Lloyd flashes away. There's the cover for the shield and the speed. And that will be Ascension fighting back.
Yes, G4 making it in the nick of time. Lloyd almost, that was almost scary for him. You still have to respect what damage Zico can dish out, but looks like at the end of the day, mid laner for Ascension saves the day, and they're going to transition that into this Rift Herald right here.
What an early Herald, because it's just not even 40 minutes into the game here.
And imagine that. I mean, we've been seeing Ascension Gaming taking so many objectives from Bigatron Esports, and with this Rift Herald take, they're going to get a hell lot more value at this point.
Tons of value. A lot of value, because Ascension right now, they're doing everything they can to make sure that everything they go for is 100%. They don't want to have any casualties. They don't want to die. So far, only giving away 1 kill.
Unless Bigatron Esports can make a fight into their salvation, I don't see this game potentially going beyond, what, 26, 27 minutes, probably even less than. So Bigatron Esports, they really need to start picking up the pace here. If they can't pick up the pace, at least try to last long enough to not allow Ascension Gaming to build up this gold lead all the more.
Oh man, for BTR, I wonder what they can do here, because it's the fact that, again, we saw this in day 1 where the Sejuani was rendered useless due to the fact of Ascension Gaming's jungler Intresso constantly invading the side of the Sejuani, making it utterly useless all throughout the early phases of the game. And now it worked. They got so much value out of it, and now they're taking away the 2nd Drake of the game, the Cloud Drake.
Yep. That's just going to be another Drake secured by the Thai squad right here. Out of combat movement. That's going to be tricky, especially it'll make the responses all the more fluid. Like we did see earlier, G4 was able to supplement Lloyd and Rich towards the top side in the nick of time. So that's going to further enforce their control over Summoner's Rift at this point.
8-1 kill score. Nearing our 16 minutes into the game. Looks like Ascension just preparing the lane, setting things up here so that they could have control over the river.
Interesting enough though, from itemization so far, looks like Minky already has his Trinity Force, still looking to complete his boots right here. So a little bit of a slow build-up as far as itemization across the board for Bigatron Esports. In all fairness though, Manamune was already built up by Zico. So that's definitely something that's workable. Still, doesn't have his 2nd tier boots either. And meanwhile, looking at the side of Ascension though, but I'm going to hold off right there. That's going to be a fight.
Forge God connects the fight, starting things up here, but that'll be BTR calling in the shed with a Stand United. Here comes Diazir, goes for the flash, and the Emperor's Divide on the 2 members. Prison connects, but he gets the cleanse away. Fissure is there for the slow. They manage to take down Lloyd.
Yes, and it looks like, man, things aren't done just yet.
They're going for the Ornn. Ornn manages to go for the 2-man knock. A true shot for connects. Bellows Breath for the shield. This will be BTR fighting back in the red side, pushing back Ascension. 3 members are still very low. Here comes the Olaf with the Ragnarok sweeping the fight. That's the double. This could be the triple and the quadra for the Olaf. Promise low executes him with the reckless swing for that triple. This could be the quadra in, and that is the quadra going to Intresso.
Yes, man, quadra right there coming in from the jungler of Ascension Gaming. Zico unfortunately was a little bit in too late for that fight right there. And at the end of the day, that is going to end in a, I believe that was a 3-for-4 towards all of that. So man, oh man, Intresso, he is on fire in this game. 7-1 on this Olaf. Not to mention that Quadra, very much welcome for him. Just going to push all the advantages all the more. And he's just going to run on to Bigatron Esports all day, not even fearing whatever front line that they have.
He's going for the righteous glory, so he'll really have no fear.
Yep, not at all. He's just going to run straight in and supplement that with utility coming in from Karma, boost him up, and a potential set from the Braum or the Ornn. Then you have a winner right there, bro, without a doubt.
And as for BTR, they did manage to get 3 kills outside from that clash, but is it enough? for them to come back here because we're nearing our 80-minute mark. Looks like the Baron will be live in, let's say, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. As for the Azir, gotta be careful. We're seeing 3 members of Ascension in the blue side, invading again, taking away the resources of BTR. Oh, toss it to Sundesk, immediately gets chunked down. At least they were able to manage to lower the Rift Herald's health. Forge God will set things up here. Barrage gets blocked by the Unbreakable.
Yes, I like that play by Radiance right there. Spawning a turret just so that Rift Herald wouldn't be, you know, it kind of slows things down a bit for Ascension. Although without a doubt, they're going to be taking that second tier, but it could have gone way worse had Rift Herald had all the more charge into that second tier.
Looks like that's a good way to use the passive to try and chunk down the Herald before reaching their inhibitor. This Baron can potentially set up for the next inhibitor for Ascension.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful not to give it away just without any contest.
I like this method coming in from Ascension Gaming. As soon as they take down second tier in mid lane, they go straight for the second tier towards top side, manage the wave quite well so that by the time that they push in towards top side, they pretty much be ready to go for that push. And with that, with second tier down across the board, but more efficiently towards top and mid, that gives Ascension Gaming a lot more control over this Baron. And what's kind of scary for me, Vulcan, is I don't think Bigatron Esports has the fight power to contest that into a full 5v5. If anything, what they want to try to do is at least allow Tulsa, fingers crossed, to make that steal to keep this dream alive for BTR to try to rake this win against the Thai squad.
Let's see if the dream is still alive for BTR, because as for Ascension, they're doing a lot of things here. As far as removing resources, also removing opportunities from BTR for them to try and start, let's say, the objectives. Because as far as Ascension is going, they're going for really by the book, calculative procedures to try and take away the objectives without any risk. Just like right now, they're setting things up like Vision and preparing the lanes such as the bot and top.
It's like Baron has spawned now, and as we can see, Ascension Gaming is already taking the proper measures to even just push all the more control over this Baron side. So this is gonna probably be, it looks like Ascension Gaming, they are starting to rendezvous together to go for the take. They want to finish this out now.
Okay, looks like they'll take away the control war here. Note that the shrine is still active for BTR.
Yeah, Ascension Gaming, are they gonna go for it already? Looks like they're just kind of linked. Okay, there you go.
Already going straight for it. Let's see, BTR, they're responding.
They are making that response now. We are seeing the rest of Bigatron Esports. They have to try to make something like
looks like they went in for the Azir this time, immediately locking down with the R. Oh my god, Adrasto just completely destroyed the Azir, and now Ascension baiting in BTR for that Baron. Now, for BTR, they will pay a heavy price.
Yup, there you have it. And of course, with that, you know, just casually taking 3 kills off of Bigatron, and they're going to go straight to finish what they started here in the Baron pit. Take note, Tulsa is still up though, so this could be the salvation for Bigatron. Let's go ahead and see if he can be the Lord and Savior of Indonesia to keep their running in the GPL a lot more feasible. Because this Baron is going down too fast. Tulsa, looks like he's not going to go for it. They're just going to give that clean to Ascension Gaming. And this is scary Vulcan right there. This is going to be the test whether or not my assumption of this game not going beyond 26 to 27 minutes is of reality.
My god, as for Ascension, this is brutal what they're doing to BTR.
Brutal. I'd say brutal is an understatement at this point.
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
it's
way
like
too
because
much.
when it comes to Ascension, they know how to bait in the picks. They let the Sejuani. Okay, take the Sejuani. What we will do, we'll completely make your Sejuani useless by letting Entreso go into your blue buff and steal it away. Not just there. Why stop there? Let's go for everything.
And that's just so unfortunate because it isn't really helping BTR's cause as trying to scale out to the later parts here. If anything, they're just way too behind for them to reach that optimal scale. And it's so unfortunate because we have seen Radiance as well as Zico deal substantial amount of damage. It's just that not all the members of BTR don't last as long enough to be able to maximize just that. And looks like another Dragon take for Ascension. You know, just to add a little bit more insult to injury right there.
Insult to injury? Let's say rubbing salt on the wounds right now.
That's painful.
Squeeze in calamansi.
But still looks like Ascension Gaming, they're going to go for it. This may be potentially the picture-perfect finish. Bigatron Esports, they have to go on the defense now.
Inhibitor is exposed right now. Looks like Ascension. They're backing away. They have the Baron buff. They have the Forge Guard ready by the Orb, but looks like they have spawned the Sun Disk in the bot lane. Meanwhile, they're still pushing things in the mid lane here. This could potentially be the close. They go into the Orb. Prison does not connect at all. Looks like this could be a chance for a huge Forge Guard connecting here. Two members get knocked off, and now it will be the 2v2, 3v2 making that happen. Karma going in with a steal, and the steal. Look at that.
I'm not sure what happened there. Tulsa and Minky, they had no business chasing that Ornn, and they had to take into account the positioning of where the rest of Ascension was at. That was an easy 4-man flank coming in from the backline to support that Ornn, and I guess this is going to be it. Vulcan, I don't think Zico and Spade can make the defense to salvage this game.
Looks like this will close out our first game here. Ascension versus BTR with Ascension again. Moving on to day 2. What a performance here.
That was just very clean, Vulcan. So, ladies and gents, I guess that's gonna start off day 2 with a bang here in game 1 as Ascension Gaming further asserting their dominance by taking a game against Bigatron Esports of Indonesia. GG, well played.
Whew, well played indeed, because I'm not that surprised, Arctic. As for Ascension's performance, it's kind of an understatement to say that they dominated. They won in day 2 right now.
Okay, I just noticed Ascension Gaming actually sporting new uniforms here, sporting the black now. So we're kind of seeing the dark Ascension now. It's gone are the days that they have those lighter hues to their uniform. They're with the, it's kind of like the Dark Meteos effect. With Vietnam gone now, they're just ready to wreak havoc here in the GPL. And so far, so good for them. They have that 3-0. Of course, it's yet to be seen if they could take it clean 4-0 against Mineski later on, because they have quite the role going for them. But you also can't discount Mineski right now, who's looking pretty strong entering the GPL.
And as for Ascension, you gotta watch out for Intereso with his invade. You see the Olaf, rather try not to leave your buffs on guard. But as for the results here, congratulations to Ascension Gaming for the performance here in their game 1 to take away 1 point again from BTR.
Yeah, I just want to tackle on real quick as to what kind of went wrong for Bigatron right there. I mean, in the earlier phases, we kind of saw these minute attempts to try to at least stay I wouldn't even say on equal ground, because Ascension Gaming right off the bat was already building up on that gold deficit. So I'd probably say to at least not allow that gold lead to continue to widen. Gold difference rather, continue to widen. But at the end of the day, Ascension Gaming, they were just so quick on their feet with their plays right there on the map. It was just one play after the other. So I guess that's just pretty much it right there.
It looks like we'll be moving on to a short break here. We made casters. My name is Vulcan. With me was Arctic. See you after the short break. Moving on to game 2. Mineski versus KLH.